What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are back again with the pickups. The pickups, of course, they never stop. I don't know where all these pickups are coming from. It's getting out of control, man. We're running out of space on the shelf. It's becoming a problem. And we got a lot of good stuff today. There's some stuff here that was from before Christmas, and then some stuff within the last, couple weeks. And we actually got a lot of stuff today. My goodness, some good stuff. Finally, we got some Wii games, we got some N64 games, some other stuff. And this will probably be the last pickup video, maybe for a couple months, because we've been going hard, man. We've been laying it on thick with the pickups. All right, god damn it. To get started, we got a game I've played before. This is Dark Souls 2. I never owned a physical copy of Dark Souls 2. I actually don't own a copy of most of the Souls games, which is kind of ridiculous. And I want to get the one that had all of the DLC on it, which is great, because I've actually never played the DLC for Dark Souls 2. And no joke, just buying this was cheaper than buying the separate DLC packs on the PlayStation Store. So that's kind of cool. We got Dark Souls 2 with the full game and all the DLC on the disc. Happy about that. Next, let's go. Should we start with? We'll go N64 next. How's that? Been really expanding the N64 collection. My goodness, we got 2, 4, 6, 10 N64 games that we've added. When we started, expanding the N64, it didn't even take up like a quarter of a shelf. Now I've spilt into another shelf. All right, let's get it started. We got San Francisco Rush, Extreme Racing, the Rush, of course, the Rush series, another Midway arcade racing game, and definitely a unique one. They got a very distinct sense of physics. All of the Rush games do. It's all about doing big jumps, going fast, crashing. Definitely one of the better racing series from that generation. The N64 version, great version. And of course, we had to pick up Rush 2, Extreme Racing USA, now no longer limited just to San Francisco. And this one's cool because it's got some over-the-top levels. It's got a stunt, kind of level. It's got a half pipe level. It's ridiculous. They really lean really hard into the extreme part of the racing. And there was 3 Rush games on the N64. The last one I still need, which is probably the best one, which is Rush 2049. Super cool. Okay, moving on. Next, this is a 4-game lot that I picked up on eBay. And I've said it before, how I feel about lots. Sometimes you end up with some filler titles, and we had to bite the bullet on one filler title on this lot. But the other 3 games I wanted and needed. One game in particular I was really on the lookout for. We'll start with the filler title. That's Nascar 99. My goodness. Look at this. The only cool thing about it, it's Blockbuster, dude. It's got the Blockbuster sticker on. Do you know how many people probably played this copy? Ooh. No, I'm just joking. I sanitize all my games. Disinfect. A mild disinfectant when you buy a used game. Which, you guys, I don't think I've ever said this. Just get a little bit of cleaner and just clean off used games when you get them. Right? Nothing super harsh, nothing abrasive, right? Just give it a mild little, little clean, because, dude, some of the grime that comes off these things is gnarly. Ugh. Because, you gotta think, some of these things have been around for 20, 30 years, past how many hands, sat on the shelf for who knows how long, was in a game store being picked up by who knows how many people. Please, if you guys get used games or whatever, just give it a little clean. I've gotten games where I'm just oh, this is kind of not in great condition. And then I clean it and I'm just oh wait, it was all just grime. It's actually in fantastic shape. My goodness. So gross. Okay. Moving on with the 4-game lot. We got Pilotwings 64. This is a Nintendo IP. This is like, you know, Nintendo's got like their A-level, you know, franchises, like the Marios, their Zeldas. They got the B-level franchises, you know, your Kirby's. And then there's fucking Pilotwings 64. Because there was a Super Nintendo Pilotwings game too, right? But this was a launch game on the N64. And this one and like Mario 64. And honestly, it's still kind of fun. It's still kind of nostalgic to go back and play because I remember renting this when I was younger. And it's almost like a tech demo. It really feels like it because it's really just like, look at all this shit that you can do in 3D that you could have never done before, which is granted a huge novelty at the time. But a little rough to go back to today. That's Pilotwings 64. Another Nintendo IP. We got Wave Race 64, still a really fun game. Obviously doesn't look great, but things like the water and the physics, and it's like, hey, it actually holds up. It's still fun to go back. You know, this is back in the day. You guys remember, there's also on the GameCube, like Wave Race Blue Storm, another great game. Also launched, I think that was a launch title for the GameCube. Because remember back then, for some reason, for whatever fucking reason, water was like the metric that we used to be like, hey, look how good the graphics are. Look at how the water looks. It's insane. We put so much stake on how water looked back in the day. And it still kind of happens today, right? It's like, look at Sea of Thieves, the water, it's so insane. Then the last game in the lot. This game, like, I have this game already on other platforms. Like, it's such a bizarre, fascinating port. And that's Resident Evil 2 for the Nintendo 64. The fact that this even exists is, like, insane. Because you got the original, right? It was a PS1 game on 2 goddamn discs, on 2 CDs, right? The one thing that the PS1 had over the N64, in my opinion, the N64 could produce better 3D graphics, but the PS1 had it beat in terms of the format, the CD like format. You could have CD quality audio, you could have full motion video cutscenes, and the N64 just couldn't do that with the limitation of the cartridges. Couldn't fit nearly as much data on a cartridge as you could on a CD. So the fact that you have Resident Evil 2, a 2-disc PS1 game, all crammed onto a single cart, with both Claire's campaign, Leon's campaign, the voice acting, the cutscenes, it's all there. It's insane. It's insanity. There's definitely compromises made.
That guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
You guys should check out Modern Vintage Gamer's video on the Resident Evil 2 N64 port, because it's fascinating. The amount of like tricks and things that they had to do to fucking get this to work. Things like, you know, rendering the cutscenes at like half the frame rate and all this stuff. It's crazy, man. But it actually is a very good port, very solid, and it still plays great. Okay, moving on. The next 4 games, I picked these all up from my local game shop. One of my local game shops, not my usual one. Started off with Excitebike 64. Again, this is another like D-level Nintendo series. This is a Nintendo IP. I think Excitebike, it started on the NES. Like, it's been around for a long ass time. And Excitebike 64, it's solid, dude. It's all about doing jumps and landing properly and managing your throttle and all that kind of shit. And the Excite series, you know, continued onto the Wii, right, with Excite Truck and Excite Bots and all that shit. But Excitebike for the N64, solid game. And now the next 3 games, listen, okay, I'm a pretty casual collector. I just want to have a copy of the game that I can play most of the time, right? Like, for the N64, I collect loose carts. I'm not buying this shit complete in box. I'm not gonna concern myself with 30-year-old cardboard. Forget that. No way. But these next 3 games I did buy at a fairly deep discount just because they're not in the greatest shape. And I'm just like, you know what? If it was a game that I really, really wanted, meant a lot to me, if it was Resident Evil 2, you know, I'd be like, you know, I'll wait for a better condition title. But these ones, the price was right. So I'm just like, okay, why not? First up, we got Wipeout 64. This doesn't even look that bad at first, but it's because the cart's a little bit yellowed. Like if you look, you can kind of tell. But Wipeout 64 is actually badass. The Wipeout series has been around for so long, and this is definitely like one of the more technically impressive N64 games. Super fast, really solid visuals, still holds up really well, still fun to play. Which is why I love racing games so much, because I feel like certain things on the N64 haven't aged particularly well. Racing games largely have. Fighting games largely have, which is why I like collecting them so much. And that's, Wipeout 64, super solid. Speaking of things that haven't aged well, this is a perfect example. We got Castlevania 64, a little bit of a ripped label, right? It looks like, dude, there's probably like a fucking price sticker or some shit on there at some point, right? That's probably what happened. But yeah, Castlevania 64. Now listen, I love Castlevania, but the real N64 Castlevania game I'm on the hunt for is Legacy of Darkness, which is quite a bit more expensive. But that's basically, it's like the same game, but expanded and way better. This is the first ever 3D Castlevania game. It was definitely, they were learning, you know, Konami had never really done a 3D Castlevania. They hadn't barely made any 3D games, period, at that point. So it was, everybody was like learning 3D at this time. It was really interesting generation. Some people picked it up real quick, others not so much. But you know what? Castlevania 64, and I've played Legacy of Darkness, super underrated. It's easy to like compare them to the other Castlevania games and say they're shit, but in my opinion, they're actually not that bad. Their reputation is worse than what the games actually are. They're actually pretty fun. And finally, the last N64 game that we're adding today to the collection, we got Mortal Kombat SubZero Mythologies. Again, a little bit of a rip label, but the price was right. And come on, this game sucks ass. I think we played this back in the day. Like I recorded myself playing it. And you guys, it's a 2D platforming beat 'em up game, playing a Sub-Zero, but it retains all of the controls of a traditional Mortal Kombat fighting game. Like, it makes no goddamn sense. You're trying to platform by pressing the up button. There's no jump button. You know, the combat mechanics are like Mortal Kombat, so if you want to turn around, there's a button to face the other direction. It's so jank. It's so ridiculous. There's so much trial and error and one-hit kill BS. It's an insane game, dude. I almost want to put myself through it again and maybe play through it for you guys on the channel, just to fucking share the experience of how terrible this shit is. But now we got all of the N64 Mortal Kombat games, so that is pretty sick. Happy about that. My goodness, we did it. Okay, damn, dude. We got to expand the N64 shelf. And we're doing really good on the N64. Like, we're kind of like, we've really covered a lot of our bases. I don't need that many more N64 games. I don't want that many more N64 games, is what I'm trying to say. Because, again, I'm a pretty casual collector. I don't go for complete collections. I just collect what I want. You know what I'm saying? Next, we'll move on to the Wii pickups. The Wii is an amazing console because it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's got such an expansive library. I'm always discovering new, weird, bizarre games for it that I had never heard of before. This is not one of those titles. This is this is New Super Mario Brothers for the Wii. Goddamn, this game, I've played it so much with friends. Just the chaos, dude. Right? The Nintendo DS did the first new Super Mario Brothers game, but really it started with the Wii version because this one introduced 4 players simultaneously going through a level. And I played this with my friends and we would just screw each other over. We would just fuck with each other, you know, pick each other up, throw each other off the ledge. It's just pandemonium. Game is super fun. And yeah, believe it or not, I never owned a physical copy. You know, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of money, dude. I had a modded Wii, you know? So I kind of had to make do. So it's cool to finally own a physical copy. Next, again, weird games. We got Knights. Journey of Dreams. My goodness. This is a forgotten Sega franchise. This was the first Knights game when it came out. This was the first Knights game since the Sega Saturn. A long ass time. And there hasn't been another one since. It's crazy to think about that the gap between when this came out, so when the Saturn version came out and when this game came out, there was a long gap. But there's been an even longer gap from when this came out to now. So it's insane. This is like, yeah, a long abandoned Sega franchise. It's a really weird one too. It's kind of like side-scrolling. You're just flying through rings and, you know, really trippy visuals and iconic music and all that stuff. I remember when this game came out, I was working at Best Buy at the time, and I was working in the game department. I was the designated gamer, right? And I guess whoever was the buyer for Best Buy at the time must have been a huge Sega fanboy because they bought so many copies of Knights Journey of Dreams, I guess expecting it to be this big seller. And yeah, those copies of Knights sat on our shelves for years, for a long ass time. Okay, now we're getting into the fucking weeds. Okay, we got, again, I love the Wii because say what you want about the fucking Wii remote, but I love light gun games, and the Wii is a great like casual light gun game experience. And this is Attack of the Movies 3D. This is a light gun game that puts you in a bunch of different like scenarios. There's one where you're fighting giant bugs in a city. There's one where you're shooting aliens. There's one where you're in like some catacombs. It's crazy. It's not great, but it's I don't know. It's just one of those things. You wouldn't find this on the 360 or the PS3. Like the Wii was the only platform at the time that had weird ass games like this. Another weird one. You guys know me. I'm a huge horror fan, and this is apparently a survival horror game for the Wii that I had just learned of, and it's all about, wouldn't you know it, giant bugs. This is Escape from Bug Island, the creepiest survival horror game for the Wii. If you say so, dude. I haven't tried this yet, but it looks absolutely ridiculous. It looks ridiculous, and I was also amazed that I had never heard of this game. Eidos. What the hell, dude? Anyways, we might check it out on the channel at some point, but it looks absolutely jank as hell. Super cheap, these games to pick up, by the way. My goodness. So it's like, why not? It's such a great time to collect Wii games. Such a fun freaking system to collect for because of weird titles like these. Now, the next two Wii games are not super cheap. Now, this is one of the Wii games. I've played this on the channel before, and I really wanted to pick up a copy because every game in this series ends up being crazy expensive. I also loved this game, and I think it's a super underrated entry, and that's Silent Hill Shattered Memories. This game is awesome. I think there's so many unique and cool gameplay ideas, and it's also one of those titles that really took advantage of the Wii, and it really, like, I don't know, it had a cool way of fucking with the player, because the Wii remote, right, it has like a speaker on it, and I just remember they would do a lot of cool things with the speaker. You know, your cell phone was like a big part of the game, and like your Wii remote acted as the cell phone, and I don't know, had a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool ideas, and it's definitely, I think, an underrated entry in the Silent Hill series. We've played it on the channel. You guys should check out, have a full playthrough of it. It's a ton of fun. Next, This is the last Wii game, and again, this is one that I wanted. Once I first learned about this game, I'm just like, I need to fucking have this game because I love light gun games. And a few months back, right, we were playing a game called Cruisin' Blast on the Nintendo Switch, which was made by a team called Raw Thrills. And it turns out they made a game, an arcade light gun game back in the day called Target Terror. This is made by Raw Thrills, published by Konami, and it's got live action actors that you're shooting with a light gun, and it's super crazy violent, and it's absolutely ridiculous and over the top. It's such an insane game, dude. It's one of those so bad it's good type games, and this one is actually starting to become really hard to find. So I'm kind of happy that I was able to add it to the collection. This is the type of shit that you wouldn't find on any other platform. The Wii's like a treasure trove of weird ass games like Target Terror. And I definitely want to play this on the channel at some point. Because just like, look at this footage, dude. It's so insane. It's ridiculous. We're almost done, guys. One game left. This is one that I wanted to pick up for a while. This is a PlayStation 2 game, which is another... I think once we're done with like Wii and N64, PS2 might be a fun one to tackle because there's a lot of amazing PS2 games and really they're not that expensive. But anyways, this is the Simpsons Hit and Run. This is like a must-have. I grew up a huge fan of the Simpsons. I grew up in the 90s, dude. 90s Simpsons couldn't be beaten. Can't be beaten. And Hit and Run is like a Grand Theft Auto clone with The Simpsons, and it's got so much heart and so much charm, and it's so well done. And like even like the car physics, why are the car physics so good in this game? Everything feels so good. The controls are so tight. It's an absolutely amazing game, and it's so funny, and it's got all the original voice cast, and it's just driving around Springfield is just, it never gets old. It's so much fun. And this is also, we should play this on the channel. It's an awesome fucking game. And you guys, that is it. That is it for the pickups, and we'll probably be back in a couple months for the next one because damn, spending way too much money over here. Anyways, you guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have any game recommendations for the N64 or the Wii that you think I should add to the collection, please let me know. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Peace.